engineering company and manufacturer of composite systems. We specialize in repair of structures with glass and carbon fiber reinforced polymer to increase the structural capacity and protect the structure from future corrosion and deterioration. The PileMedic system was developed by QuickWrap to repair pilings of various materials, concrete, steel, wood, and the primary purpose of PileMedic is to increase the structural capacity of the pile while also providing an impervious shell that prevents future corrosion. Oftentimes, this system can increase structural capacity without the requirement of hoop rebar or bulky forms. Conventional pile jacketing systems all require the use of some kind of a seam, and this seam can be the weak point for the jacket, so there's always a limitation on the structural capacity added without adding extensive rebar cages. This also introduces a point of entry for water and air, which can allow deterioration of the pile to continue in the future. These systems often utilize self-tapping stainless steel screws to provide a connection fastening point for the tongue and groove, which can also be a point of entry for water and air into the system. The PileMedic system is very different from any other jacket on the market due to the fact that we don't have any vertical seams. Since the jacket is wrapped around itself twice and epoxy bonded to itself, it eliminates that weak seam. And you can see here how we can build any height pile jacket that we want by building consecutive 4 feet segments, and the first segment gets pushed down while the second segment will get wrapped around the top of the first jacket to create a pile jacket of any height. The elimination of the vertical seam allows the jacket to provide a high confining pressure, which increases the pile capacity without rebar. The confining pressure of PileMedic is very effective against certain concrete conditions that create a dilation effect inside of the concrete, causing premature cracking, and this confining pressure can counteract those forces and prevent the cracking from happening. Here you can see a sample of the PileMedic system. Against the pile, you will see a zip tie and spacers. Those are installed first, and then after that spacer system is installed, the spacers can actually receive longitudinal rebar if necessary, and then once those are in place, then the PileMedic system is wrapped around the spacers in 2 layers, with the first layer being epoxy bonded to the second layer, and we'll go over this in more detail. One of the first third-party studies that was performed was by Caltrans, and they tested it on a concrete column, bridge column. Basically, they wanted to find out if a bridge was damaged severely in an earthquake, including rupturing of the longitudinal rebar. Could we install PileMedic onto that column and then retest it after the repair and see if we brought that pile or column, in this case, back to the original capacity. And the test was successful. We were able to exceed the original capacity and actually reached the limit of the press. The system was also tested on steel piles by the Texas Department of Transportation. They had these steel pile samples that they simulated deterioration by cutting out sections of it to significantly weaken those piles. And then they had us wrap the samples underwater with PileMedic system and inject grout. And then they removed those piles, put them into a press to test the actual capacity, and they did find that the piles were able to be restored to their original capacity. A similar test was performed by the Nebraska Department of Roads on timber piles, simulating deterioration by cutting out a section of those piles. And then we proceeded to wrap the damaged piles with PileMedic, and then they retested those piles with all the samples failing outside of the repair section, effectively in returning the pile to its original capacity. The most relevant study to date is the Army Corps of Engineers research program, which aimed to develop ways to rapidly restore damaged port facilities. After an extensive evaluation process of all major pile jacketing products on the market, the technical team chose PileMedic for the program. Here we have military personnel learning how to install PileMedic. You can see them cutting the PileMedic laminate sheet at the proper length to wrap around the pile. Here you can see some of our competitors' jackets during the Army Corps of Engineers testing, and it was noted that there was too much annular space for a lot of these systems. The PileMedic system often has small annular spaces. The time to complete these repairs also was unacceptable to the Army Corps staff, taking several days rather than several hours that it took for the PileMedic system to be installed. You can see a roll of PileMedic here on the Port of Seattle dock. The packaging is the laminate comes on a roll, a continuous sheet, and then pieces are cut off for individual piles. This greatly reduces the amount of space that's needed for storage and also simplifies the shipping process and reduces shipping costs. This is a letter from the Engineer Research and Development Center at the Army Corps of Engineers from the Senior Scientific Technical Manager outlining the reasons why they decided to go with the PileMedic system. In this letter, they noted that the primary reason for choosing PileMedic was due to the innovation of the product, the ease of use, and the adaptability to pile size, meaning one size fits all, not having to order a special size. Also, the logistical footprint that we saw on a previous slide. Training requirements were very minimal, and the durability of the repair. But probably the most telling aspect was that the time required to install PileMedic to achieve a mission-capable structure was significantly less than other products.
Pile repair of a badly deteriorated pier along the Virginia coast. This 400-foot-long pier has a combination of concrete and timber cap and decking supported by 530 timber piles with an average section loss of 50% at the splash zone. The client required that the deteriorated 13-inch to 15-inch timber piles be restored to their original structural capacity while the port remained in service. Older pile jacket systems require rebar cages and a fiberglass jacket that gets glued or bolted along its vertical seam. These weak seams do not provide structural confinement and are an entry point for water and oxygen to weaken the system over time. The PileMedic system utilized its patented spacer system to maintain the annular space and provide easy snap-in installation of longitudinal FRP rebars for additional flexural strength. The PileMedic system was chosen because the engineering design restored the axial flexural and shear capacity at a low cost of installation. The system allows full restoration of the piles, even at sections of the pile with 100% section loss. These unique features allowed for the rapid repair of the full length of 530 timber piles all the way to the seabed. The repaired piles are fully encased in FRP and protected from the harsh environment. This will extend the useful life of the pier for decades to come. For more information, please visit PileMedic.com. U.S. Navy and Army divers recently demonstrated PileMedic's rapid pile repair capabilities in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The demonstration was part of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers' assessment of pile repair technologies for their ability to swiftly repair damaged structures and shorten repair times from months to days. PileMedic was ultimately chosen by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers because of its installation speed, strength, and versatility as a one-size-fits-all pile repair system. Repairs using PileMedic were also accessed in a variety of conditions, including darkness, rain, high winds, and rough waters. PileMedic thanks the U.S. Transportation Command, the U.S. Pacific Command, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for the live footage of these repairs. Visit PileMedic.com for more product information.
This is a pier at the Port of Seattle that we used PileMedic to repair about 80 octagonal concrete piles that were showing signs of cracking due to a concrete condition that required a high confining pressure in order to mitigate the cracking. And you can see some workers installing the PileMedic here on this video. This shows an installation in Indiana on a bridge with steel piles. You can see that we have a topside crew here. The PileMedic has already been cut to size above ground, and epoxy has been installed. And you can also see that the zip ties with the spacers that are going to hold the annular space and any rebar if necessary. This particular job did not have any rebar. Those spacers have already been installed, and now they're simply wrapping the PileMedic around the spacer system. And you can see they kind of have the first layer on. They're holding on to the edge of the PileMedic so that it doesn't spin as they're pulling that second layer around the pile. The diver has there's a handle attached to the PileMedic with some vice grips, and they will just hand that to the topside crew, which in turn pulls the PileMedic around the pile, handing it back to the diver, and then they take off that top vice grip and apply it to all 3 plies or 2 plies around the PileMedic so that they can get the zip ties in place. And we put zip ties around the PileMedic in order to hold it in place while that epoxy is curing. There'll be an initial set within a couple hours, but full curing time is about 24 hours depending upon the water temperature. And a lot of the work is done by the topside crews with assistance of a diver. Sometimes, depending on the depth of repair, you don't even need a diver. You can see them holding a piece of wood in place. We will often put a piece of wood on the very end edge of the PileMedic before installing the plastic zip ties. And that wood will hold that edge down so that we're sure that the epoxy cures all the way to the edge of the PileMedic and we don't have an edge sticking out. And oftentimes they'll also use some thickened epoxy to detail that edge just to make sure that nothing can get behind it. The whole process takes about 4 minutes, I believe this video is. So the install time is very minimal once the spacers are in place and the epoxy is applied, which also is not very time consuming. So the whole process is very simplified and does not take very, very long. PileMedic has also been extensively used to strengthen cell phone towers. Oftentimes they want to add additional equipment that's heavier than the original, and in order to do that, they need to strengthen the base. This is an ideal application for PileMedic due to the amount of capacity that can be increased with the solution. Some projects require that we transfer the load to the foundation or sometimes to a pile cap up above. So we're able to dowel in rebar, which is then encased by the PileMedic and has an annular space which grout is placed into. And this creates a moment connection to pass the load from the repair to the foundation. Here you can see where the rebar has been doweled into the foundation and is in the repair section with the PileMedic around it, which then gets filled with grout to make the load path continuous from the foundation to the repair area or from the repair to a pile cap above in the case of a bridge column or marine piling. In this design example, you can see the capacity that PileMedic introduces to a pile compared to a conventional jacket. If you have a 12 by 12 square concrete pile with original compressive strength of about 4,000 psi and ignore the reinforcing steel, the extra capacity is about 490 kips. If we wanted to increase that capacity, we could put an original ordinary jacket on, 18-inch diameter, filled with 4,000 psi grout, resulting in about an 865 kip capacity. The same pile encapsulated in PileMedic results in about 1,198 kip capacity. So that's about a 38% increase in capacity compared to a conventional jacket. Here you can see a conventional design utilizing a traditional pile jacket and requiring ties, number 3 ties at 6 inches on center with rebar couplers. And this is a very labor-intensive repair that is required in order to increase the pile's capacity when you're not utilizing a jacket which has that hoop strength built into it due to the confining pressure that it introduces. So as you can see, the couplers there have a lot of fasteners that have to be manually tightened and torqued down by the divers, which is avoided by the PileMedic system. Here you can see the PileMedic design, which utilizes no rebar, yet can increase the pile capacity just as much as the conventional repair that utilizes extensive rebar cages. As you can see in this illustration, we were able to substitute PileMedic in this case Their number 3s were 6 inches on center. The force equivalency provided by the PileMedic laminate is a number 3 at 2 inches on center, and that's not only in the hoop direction but longitudinally also. So we were effectively able to eliminate the labor-intensive process of installing rebar hoop cages. In cases where the project goal is to increase the flexural capacity of the pile, we can introduce longitudinal rebar, which are simply snapped into place into our spacer system prior to wrapping the PileMedic around the pile and rebar and filling with grout. The main competitive advantage that PileMedic has compared to all the other jacketing systems is primarily its ability to introduce a tremendous amount of capacity without the use of bulky forms or labor-intensive rebar cages. In addition to that, the fact that one size fits all, you're pulling this off of one roll of material to make any size pile jacket. It's increasing axial and flexural strength without the use of rebar, in some cases with additional rebar for bending. It's providing a tremendous confinement pressure due to the lack of seams, which is the main reason for its ability to increase capacity. A very long lifespan due to the fact that we use all composite materials. Very easy to install with a system of spacers that we've developed. And full restoration of pile capacity, as I've mentioned before. If you're interested in learning more about PileMedic or would like to get a quote, please contact QuakeWrap today. QuakeWrap is the world's innovator of fiber-reinforced polymer solutions for infrastructure repair. And we do provide materials, engineering, design services, and installation. So we do have a turnkey solution for all of our clients. And we would be happy to help you out in any project that involves infrastructure repair.